While metal detecting on an old farm in North Georgia, my son and I dug up this aluminum egg. It measures about 2 inches long by 1.5 inches wide and is held together by a brass screw. When it accidentally popped open, we found a heavy lead disc inside acting as an internal weight. The outside bears partial markings that read, Big, Made in Canada, and the number 21. Does anyone know what it is? What you found is a mechanical dummy egg made by Big Dutchman, a major poultry equipment manufacturer founded by the DeWitt brothers in 1938. In commercial egg farming, nesting boxes require a training mechanism to encourage hens to lay their eggs in specific locations rather than randomly on the floor. A weighted dummy egg simulates a safe, established nesting environment. The internal lead disc ensures the aluminum egg feels heavy and stays securely in place when a hen interacts with it. Today, farmers mostly use solid ceramic or plastic versions, making this heavy metal decoy a neat piece of agricultural history. I am a sucker for vintage office things, but I have never seen this before. I found it in a thrift store in Halifax. It is all metal except for the feet, measuring 12.5 inches high, 8 inches long, and 4.75 inches wide. The top latch unlocks and slides into the side to expand. Has anyone seen something like this before? It's a vintage computer-punched card stacker. Before modern monitors and keyboards were common, early computers from the 1950s through the 1970s were programmed using stiff paper cards with holes punched into them to represent digital data. Programmers used heavy metal trays like this to hold, organize, and safely transport stacks of these cards to the mainframe readers. The expandable latch allowed the tray to secure different quantities of cards tightly so none would fall out of sequence. I received this blue and green Velcro cone in a rather expensive mystery box. It has a plastic rim along the side and naturally forms a cone shape when the small Velcro bands hold it together. My first thought was some form of neck protection for a horse. Does anyone know what it is? This object is known as a veterinary recovery collar, commonly referred to as a soft Elizabethan collar. It is designed to be fastened securely around a dog or cat's neck to prevent them from licking or biting surgical incisions while they heal. Inventor Edward Tucker patented the first commercial veterinary Elizabethan collar for dogs in the 1950s, naming it after the stiff ruffs worn in 16th century England. While early designs were made of rigid, uncomfortable plastic, this modern variation utilizes soft padded fabric and a flexible plastic rim to allow pets to sleep and navigate doorways comfortably. I found this white, dot-like device plugged into the wall at our Airbnb. There is one in every bedroom and the living room. The host claimed they were remote controllers, but after I unplugged them, he immediately messaged me asking to turn them back on. ChatGPT suggested it was a hidden camera. Does anyone know what it is? What you found is a remote control IR blaster. It is definitely not a camera. This device connects to the local Wi-Fi network and allows the host to use a smartphone app to send out infrared signals to electronics in the room. It functions essentially as a universal remote, letting them control the television, ceiling fan, or air conditioning unit from anywhere. The host likely wanted them plugged back in to regulate the temperature and save on energy costs when guests leave the house. I found this tiny metal container attached to a chain inside an old jewelry box. The top unscrews and has a small post inside that appears to mostly fill the space. We cannot think of anything that would fit inside. What is it? It's a vintage perfume urn, originally designed to be worn on a charm bracelet or necklace. Popularized in the mid-20th century, these miniature vials allowed wearers to carry a small amount of liquid fragrance with them. The small post attached to the lid is actually an applicator wand, also known as a dauber. When you unscrew the cap, the wand pulls out a single drop of perfume, which is then applied directly to the pulse points on the wrists or neck. Because the wand displaces most of the interior volume, it ensures the liquid does not slosh around or leak easily. I found this wooden clamp with 3 disc-shaped spacers in the middle and a leather buffer over one side of the jaw. It was mixed in with some guitar and music accessories, but it looks like it might have been modified for something else. Does anyone know what it is? This object is known as a third-hand capo for acoustic and electric guitars. Unlike standard capos that bar all 6 strings at once, this specific design allows a player to selectively clamp individual strings. The wooden discs rotate and position over specific strings, pressing them down against the fretboard. This mechanism enables a guitarist to create complex open tunings without actually changing the tension of the tuning pegs. The leather pad protects the back of the guitar neck from scratches while the clamp is tightened. I found this super heavy handheld machine with a crank and wires coming out of the back in a shop in rural Alabama. Does anyone know what it is? What you found is a telephone magneto. Before automatic dialing and centralized power grids, early 20th century telephones required the user to generate their own electricity to signal the operator or ring other phones on a shared party line. Turning the hand crank rotates a wire coil inside a series of heavy, horseshoe-shaped permanent magnets. This mechanical action generates a high-voltage alternating current that travels down the wires to activate the bells on the receiving end. As modern telecommunications evolved in the mid-1900s, these heavy cast iron and brass devices became obsolete, though they remain popular with antique collectors. A friend found this small UV-reactive glass cylinder at an antique store. It looks like acro glass, and he is planning to use it as a display stand for a vintage marble. Any ideas on what it was originally used for? What you found is a piece of slag glass, also known as agate glass. Specifically, this is a decorative component likely taken from an antique smoking stand or a floor lamp, dating back to the 1920s or 1930s. Slag glass was heavily produced during the American manufacturing boom by companies like the Howes Glass Company, who made various marble glass parts for furniture and lighting fixtures. The UV reactivity comes from trace amounts of uranium or manganese added to the glass mixture during production. I found these strangely shaped, small, clear glass pieces inside an old van. The vehicle was previously owned by a hoarder and packed with items, so they might not be automotive parts at all. They look handcrafted, as they are not exactly the same size, and are about the size of a quarter. Does anyone know what they are? It's an antique salt cellar spoon, sometimes referred to as a salt shovel. Before the invention of free-flowing table salt and the shaker in the late 19th century, salt was prone to clumping due to moisture in the air. Diners would place small, open dishes of coarse salt, known as cellars, on the table. Guests used miniature glass or sterling silver shovels like these to scoop the salt and sprinkle it over their food. Glass versions were particularly popular because salt is highly corrosive and would tarnish standard silver flatware over time. I am helping one of my grandmother's elderly friends move into an assisted living facility, and it's my job to help clean out his apartment. While packing, I found these two dense, marble-like brick objects. They measure 6 inches long, 3 inches wide, and 2 inches thick, weighing roughly 5 pounds each. They feature raised busts and have a soft felt texture applied to the underside. Does anyone know what they are? These objects are matched bookends featuring the profile busts of French Emperor Napoleon Bonaparte and his first wife, Empress Josephine. The dense, heavy material and flat inside edges are specifically designed to anchor a row of books on a shelf, while the felt on the bottom prevents the heavy cast material from scratching wooden furniture. Decorative sets like this were frequently manufactured throughout the 20th century as library decor, celebrating famous historical figures and classical European history. I found this small wooden box containing carved wood components and a piece of chalk. I opened it up, but there are no obvious moving parts or electronics inside. Does anyone know what it is? It's a box-style turkey call, a traditional acoustic device used by hunters to mimic the sounds of wild turkeys. The mechanism relies entirely on friction to produce sound. The user rubs chalk on the underside of the wooden lid, known as the paddle, and scrapes it against the thin, resonant side panels of the wooden box. This sliding action catches and releases the wood grain, producing high-pitched yelps and clucks. The modern box call design traces its origins back to a patent filed by Henry Gibson in 1897, and it remains a highly effective tool in the woods today. I came across these 4.75-inch tall glass containers sealed with corks. The corks do not stay in very well, and each glass piece has a small hole on the larger, rounded end, preventing them from sitting flat on a table. Does anyone know what it is? What you found is a hand-blown glass match cloche, a specialized vessel used to store and display wooden matches. Historically popularized in the late 19th century as a household necessity before the invention of modern lighters, these jars kept strike-anywhere matches completely dry. The rounded bottom prevents the jar from standing upright on its own, meaning it was designed to rest securely inside a custom metal or wooden base. The cork acts as a simple stopper to keep ambient moisture out, while the small hole on the glass body is the pontil mark, a scar left behind by the glassblower's iron pipe during manufacturing. What is this strange ceramic hippopotamus dish I stumbled across at a thrift store? It has a wide-open mouth and a perfectly round hole passing straight through the sides of the hippo's cheeks. But it does not seem to hold liquids or trinkets very well. Does anyone know what it is? This object is known as a novelty toothpaste squeezer. Originally, this ceramic hippo would have come with a matching pin that slid completely through those side holes. You would insert the flat bottom edge of a toothpaste tube into a thin slot carved into the pin. As you twist the pin from the outside, the tube rolls up tightly inside the hippo's mouth, forcing the toothpaste out the top while keeping your bathroom counter totally organized. It is a clever mechanical design meant to effortlessly extract every last drop from standard aluminum or plastic tubes. We have found 2 of these little silver items on our carpets over the past couple of days. It is a tiny metal fixing about 4 millimeters long, featuring a threaded body, a pointed end, and what looks like a tiny Allen key socket on the top. Does anyone know what it is? It's a grub screw, also known in the hardware world as a set screw. This specific fastener is designed to lock one object firmly within another without needing a traditional projecting head. You use an Allen wrench to drive the threaded cylinder into a tapped hole until the pointed end bites tightly against the internal shaft. These are incredibly common in household fixtures. Since you found them scattered on your carpet, you should probably check your bathroom towel rails, toilet roll holders, or doorknobs, as one of your fixtures is definitely coming loose. I found this silver metal disc while metal detecting in the United Kingdom. It measures 42 millimeters in diameter and weighs 44 grams, with some faint markings pressed into the surface. Does anyone know what it is? What you found is a lead bag seal, historically used to secure bulk goods and verify their quality or origin. Starting in the Middle Ages and continuing through the 19th century, these seals were heavily utilized in the European textile trade and agricultural shipping sectors. An inspector would compress 2 lead discs around the string of a bag or bale using a specialized die press, stamping it with a unique official insignia. This physical mechanism ensured that the cargo was not tampered with during transit and proved to customs officials that the appropriate taxes had been paid. I found this polished wooden bowl measuring about 15 inches across, resting on a 3-foot-tall stand made of antlers. It was spotted at a barn venue used for weddings, making me think it had a specific ceremonial purpose. Does anyone know what it is? It's a decorative wooden bowl carved from a tree burl mounted on a custom antler stand. A burl is a tree growth in which the grain has grown in a deformed, interlocking manner, usually caused by environmental stress, fungal injury, or a viral infection in the living tree. Woodworkers prize burls for their highly unusual and intricate grain patterns, making them excellent materials for sculpting. While it looks ceremonial, it is actually just a rustic centerpiece designed to hold mints, candles, or simply act as a decorative focal point for the event venue. This heavy metal object was found in the hoard of a former hardware store worker. The blue round section and the silver metal part spin together freely, but they do not move up or down, and the flat bottom has no manufacturer markings. Does anyone know what it is? What you found is likely a component from a Dremel rotary tool drill press workstation, or possibly a Craig jig system accessory. The specific blue coloring and swivel mechanics are characteristic of these brands. In a tool setup like a Dremel workstation, components like this function as a pivoting mount or depth stop. The heavy base provides stability, while the free-spinning silver collar allows the user to rotate the tool to various angles for precision drilling, sanding, or polishing without removing the tool from the mount. I found this while looking through an overgrown area on a bush block in Victoria, Australia. There are 4 of these in total, each about 6.5 feet wide. Under the dirt and moss, it feels smooth and slippery like white marble rather than concrete. It features 4 semicircular arched cutouts with decorative edge molding, and there is a separate plinth it seems to sit on. Does anyone know what it is? What you found is a section of architectural salvage, specifically a heavy marble balcony or divider trim. In classical building design, a piece like this acts as a base rail or upper railing that supports decorative vertical posts called balusters. The arched cutouts typically frame the negative space between the individual columns of the balustrade. Because it is carved from solid marble rather than cast concrete, it was likely salvaged from the demolition of a high-end historic building or estate before being abandoned on the property. I found this on the sidewalk, and it has everyone at work completely stumped. It looks like a 3/4-inch metal nut with a captured piece inside that spins freely. It is lightly threaded, completely non-magnetic, and features a small hole in the center that is only about 1/16 inch deep. Does anyone know what it is? What you found is a heavy-duty power lug, specifically a copper mechanical lug used in industrial electrical engineering. These sturdy connectors are designed to safely terminate and connect very large, high-voltage electrical cables to power supplies or grounding bus bars. The spinning captured piece you see inside is the pressure pad or saddle. When a technician turns the lug, that saddle clamps down directly onto the exposed copper wire strands, creating a secure, low-resistance electrical connection without needing to solder or crimp the wire. I spotted this wood-mounted metal wizard face at a local flea market. The metal face actually flips up to reveal a detailed crustacean hidden underneath. It is easily one of the most bizarre objects I have ever seen. Does anyone know what it is? What you found is a novelty brass door knocker. Heavy metal door knockers have been used since ancient Greece to signal arrival. But the Victorian era in the 19th century introduced a massive trend of highly detailed, eccentric, and sometimes humorous designs. The mechanism is a simple mechanical hinge built into the top of the wizard's head. When a visitor lifts the heavy brass face and drops it, the metal strikes the backplate, creating a loud, resonating sound through a solid wood door. The hidden crab underneath is simply a whimsical design choice, cast by a brass foundry to give visitors a sudden surprise. I bought this wooden object at an antique store a few years ago, and have tried to figure out what it is. The bottom opens up, revealing 4 white marbles and 4 black marbles. On the outside, there are 9 round indentations carved in a row. Does anyone know what it is? This object is known as a peg or marble solitaire brain teaser game. To play, you start with the 4 white marbles on one side, the 4 black on the other, and the empty indentation perfectly in the middle. The goal is to completely swap the positions of the colors. The mechanics dictate that you can only move 1 marble at a time, either sliding into an adjacent empty space or jumping exactly 1 other marble, with no backward moves allowed. It is a classic logic puzzle that tests sequential planning. What is this wooden frame with 3 layers of glass and metal mesh? The dimensions are roughly 9.5 inches tall by 7.5 inches wide, and the space between the glass layers is about 1 inch. One side has a sandwich of glass, mesh, and glass, while the other side is just a single pane. Does anyone know what it is? What you found is a specialized floating picture frame. Often utilized as a shadow box, it is specifically manufactured to display pressed botanical specimens like leaves and flowers, or delicate textiles. The tight metal mesh gently grips the object, preventing it from slipping down over time, while the multiple layers of glass create an optical illusion that makes the suspended object appear to float within the frame. The extra 1 inch of depth allows ambient light to pass through the background, casting dynamic, natural shadows onto the wall behind it. I found this hard plastic tool in a box with colored pencils. It has a metal tip that looks like it belongs to a pen, but it is entirely hollow. The other end features a removable plastic stopper covering a shallow hole less than 1 inch deep. Does anyone know what it is? What you found is a diamond painting tool. Diamond painting is a modern craft where tiny resin rhinestones, often called diamonds, are applied to a pre-glued canvas to create mosaic art. The hollow metal tip is specifically designed to pick up these tiny gems. You press the tip into a small block of wax, which fills the void, giving it just enough tackiness to easily pick up and place the rhinestones onto the canvas. The removable stopper on the back end is simply a cap to protect the tool or store a spare piece of wax. I found this clear bowl or bulb on a metal base with an attached tube while looking through kitchen items at a Goodwill. Does anyone know what it is? What you found is a wine aerating pourer. When you pour wine through the device, the liquid moves quickly through the narrow tube. According to Bernoulli's principle, this creates a drop in pressure, drawing surrounding air into the flow. This instantly introduces oxygen into the wine, which helps to rapidly release its aromas and soften harsh tannins, replicating the effect of letting a bottle breathe for an hour in just a few seconds. I found this rectangular, slimy piece of cloth mixed in with my clothes in the washing machine. It was stuck between my shirts after a wash cycle. There is a slimy side and a non-slimy side. Does anyone know what it is? This object is known as a Salonpas lidocaine patch, or a similar transdermal pain relief patch. Originally developed by the Japanese pharmaceutical company Hisamitsu in 1934, these patches use a hydrogel layer to deliver topical analgesics like lidocaine or menthol directly through the skin. When accidentally run through a washing machine, the water-soluble hydrogel absorbs moisture and partially dissolves, leaving behind the distinct, slimy, gelatinous residue on one side of the fabric backing. I dug this up in my backyard in the southeastern United States. It weighs roughly 3 pounds maximum and has a distinct spiral shape with heavy rust and some copper patina on it. Does anyone know what it is? It's a heavy-duty dog tie-out stake. Designed with an auger-style blade, this metal anchor is installed by twisting it deep into the soil. The helical shape functions like a large screw, utilizing the surrounding compacted earth to resist upward and lateral pulling forces. A leash or cable is attached to the pivoting metal ring at the top, allowing a pet to roam freely in a 360-degree circle without tangling the line or pulling the stake out of the ground. What are the strange raised bars and lines on these utility doors? I walk past them often and notice they have different, seemingly random patterns, but still follow a clear design language. I initially thought they were meant to guide rain away from the electrical components inside, but some doors have them while others are completely flat. Does anyone know what it is? This object is known as an anti-fly posting door. The raised bars are actually a deterrent designed to prevent people from sticking unauthorized advertisements, posters, or bills onto the flat metal surfaces. By creating an uneven, textured topography, the metal bars break up the surface area, making it impossible for adhesive paste or tape to form a strong, flat bond. As a result, any paper applied to the door will quickly weather and peel off, saving the city significant time and money on maintenance. We were clearing out my mother-in-law's apartment and found this 6-inch aluminum tool. She was heavily into crafting, so we assumed it was for a hobby, but it features a distinct curved edge and a pocket clip. Does anyone know what it is? It's a table crummer. Originally invented in 1939 by John Henry Miller, a restaurant owner in Baltimore, Maryland, this tool was designed to quickly and discreetly sweep breadcrumbs off a tablecloth between courses. Waitstaff keep the lightweight aluminum trough clipped to their shirt pockets. During service, they glide the curved edge over the table, using a sweeping motion to collect the debris into the hollow channel before dumping it onto a plate. Miller's patent revolutionized fine dining service, replacing the bulky and loud brush and pan sets previously used by waiters. What is this small, heavy-duty leather bag? It stands approximately 12 inches in height, features a thick fastening strap, a clear plastic window for a label, and rugged brass hardware designed to hold a padlock. Does anyone know what it is? What you found is a vintage railway conductor's bag. These lockable satchels were standard issue equipment across North American and European rail networks throughout the late 19th and 20th centuries. Conductors utilized these highly durable leather bags to securely transport collected cash fares, unpunched passenger tickets, and daily route manifests. The clear plastic window allowed the railway company to easily insert routing cards or the assigned conductor's identification badge. The heavy brass hardware was critical, ensuring the valuable contents remained completely secure from tampering or theft while the conductor transitioned between crowded train cars and the central depot. What is this strange, conical metal object? It has a hollow body with a threaded bar protruding from the top, but the end is perfectly solid and does not open up like a drill chuck. Does anyone know what it is? This object is known as a machinist jack. Sometimes referred to as a leveling jack, it is a foundational precision tool used heavily in metalworking and industrial milling. When a machinist places a heavy or irregularly shaped piece of metal onto a milling machine bed, they must ensure every overhang is perfectly supported so the metal does not flex under the immense downward pressure of the cutting bit. Rotating the threaded bar allows the operator to micro-adjust the height to precisely match the gap underneath the workpiece. These jacks act as miniature load-bearing pillars, providing rock-solid stability during heavy machining operations. I found this small plastic baggie on my front lawn near my mailbox, and no one in my house knows where it came from. Inside are 2 pairs of conjoined buttons. They are about 1/4 of an inch wide, covered in blue and white striped cloth, and joined on the back by a metal double eyelet. Does anyone know what it is? What you found is a set of double-sided cufflinks, often referred to as formal shirt studs. Before the modern toggle-style cufflinks became standard in the 1920s, men used fixed double-button links to secure the cuffs of dress shirts. The metal double eyelet acts as a bridge, sliding through the buttonholes on both sides of a French cuff to hold them together. The striped fabric covering suggests they were designed to match a specific formal shirt or club tie, a sartorial practice that originated with British rowing clubs in the late 19th century. What is this wooden object attached to the wall above the sink in a kitchen? The inside is completely open, and there is no bottom to hold anything. A reverse image search suggested it was a candle holder, but there is no flat surface for a candle to sit on. Does anyone know what it is? What you found is a vintage wall-mounted scissors holder. These specialized wooden mounts were incredibly popular in household kitchens throughout the 1950s and 1970s. The open-bottom design allows the blades of the scissors to point safely downward while the handles rest securely on the top rim. This keeps sharp shears easily accessible for opening food packaging or cutting twine without cluttering up a drawer or posing a safety hazard. Many families still keep them installed today for their practical convenience. I found this heavy electronic component sitting by my front door next to a newly delivered package. It weighs about 1 pound, features metal and plastic parts, and looks like it's snapped off of a larger device. Does anyone know what it is? What you found is an enclosed power supply unit, likely part of a high-output LED lighting rig or a commercial electronic device. These specialized components function by taking high-voltage alternating current from a standard wall outlet and converting it into a steady, low-voltage direct current for sensitive electronics. The perforated metal casing allows for passive cooling, safely dissipating the heat generated during the intensive voltage step-down process. Because the casing is broken and snapped, it most likely sustained impact damage during shipping and fell out of its original, poorly sealed packaging. We recently acquired an aircraft hangar at our local airport, and in the process of cleaning it out, we found these large, green pieces of machinery standing over 6 feet tall. We also found a lot of metalworking and pottery equipment nearby. Does anyone know what they are? This object is known as a friction drive fly press, a heavy-duty machine used for industrial metalworking. Unlike a manual press turned by human strength, this unit operates using an electric motor. The horizontal black wheel at the top is made of a friction material, similar to brake pads. The metal discs on either side act like a clutch system. When one of the spinning drive plates is pushed against the horizontal wheel, it rotates a massive, coarse-threaded screw. This forces the central ram downward with immense pressure to punch holes in steel, stamp parts, or fold sheet metal into specific shapes. Engaging the opposite disc instantly reverses the rotation, driving the ram back up for the next cycle. I got this from an auction in a box full of random stuff. It is a small black plastic item, about 3 inches long. The silver arm turns and snaps back when pushed into the black housing, and the top knob freely rotates. Does anyone know what it is? What you found is a bicycle generator, specifically known as a bottle dynamo. Originally developed in the early 1900s, these devices mount directly to the front fork or rear frame of a bicycle. The spring-loaded silver arm clamps the dynamo securely in place, while the ridged knob rests against the sidewall of the bicycle tire. As the wheel spins, it rotates the knob, which turns a small, permanent magnet inside a copper wire coil within the black plastic housing. By applying Faraday's law of induction, this mechanical rotation generates a 6-volt electrical current, providing a reliable power source for the bicycle's headlight during night riding. What are these soft plastic half-spheres? I found them loose inside a Valentine's Day gift bag with no packaging. They are pink and red, measure about 1 inch across, and have a small hole in the center. An image search suggested they might be fishing sinkers or beads, but the silicone material feels too bouncy. Does anyone know what they are? It is a classic novelty toy known as a jumping popper, sometimes called a hopper dropper. Originally popularized in the late 1980s and 1990s, they demonstrate basic physics using elastic potential energy. To use it, you push the rubber dome inside out, place it on a flat surface, and wait. As the silicone material naturally tries to return to its original molded shape, it rapidly snaps back. The sudden release of tension pushes against the table surface, launching the lightweight popper several feet into the air. These 2 glass objects were found by a patron in the corner of our library's children's department. They look like small, clear glass vials, but they are broken off and sharp at the tips. We checked all the nearby toys and sensory boards, but none have glass parts. We even handed them over to the local police department over concerns they were drug-related, but they were totally baffled too. Does anyone know what it is? It's a broken sand timer. More specifically, these are the 2 glass bulbs of an hourglass mechanism that has been snapped in the middle at its narrowest point, known as the neck. Sand timers are often encased in plastic and included with children's board games or toothbrushing kits to measure out 1 to 3 minutes. The sharp tips are where the delicate glass neck shattered, which released all the sand and left behind just the 2 empty halves. It is completely harmless, aside from the sharp, broken glass edges. What is this odd-looking, hand-blown glass object? It stands about 1 foot tall, with a wide base that tapers up into a long neck, and features a sharply angled spout sticking far out of the side. Does anyone know what it is? This object is known as a pouron. It is a traditional glass wine pitcher that originated in Catalonia, Spain. The unique design allows multiple people to share the same batch of wine without passing glasses or touching their lips to the vessel. To use it, you hold the pitcher high and tilt it so the wine flows into the narrow spout. The spout tapers down to a tiny opening, which shoots a thin, precise stream of wine directly into the drinker's mouth from a distance. The shape minimizes the wine's contact with the air, keeping it fresh while serving as a highly hygienic and communal drinking tool. What is this massive piece of farm equipment? It stands about 5 feet high and 3 feet wide, and it was found abandoned in an Austrian barn where it has not been touched in over 50 years. Inside the large wooden box sits a heavy rotating drum covered in metal spikes that appears designed to be driven by a belt. Does anyone know what it is? This object is known as a shicked chaff cutter. Before modern automated farming, preparing winter feed for livestock was a labor-intensive task. A chaff cutter is a mechanical device used to slice hay, straw, or oats into small, manageable pieces called chaff. The belt drive would spin the spiked drum, pulling long, tough stalks of dried crop into sharp cutting blades. This chopped material was then mixed with grains and water to create an easily digestible mash for cattle and horses. While electric processors do this instantly today, these old belt-driven machines were vital for feeding farm animals through harsh winters. What is this vintage wooden box filled with strange metal tools? It contains long, thin, cylindrical pieces that taper to a point, threaded discs, protruding collars, and a pair of tweezers. Does anyone know what it is? What you found is a custom machined calibration set, likely used for measuring fluid pressure or vacuum. Looking closely at the mechanics, the threaded discs act as varying weights that attach directly to the ends of the needles. The ball end of the needles would seat tightly into a jet or valve on a piece of machinery. By adding or removing the weighted discs, a technician could precisely calculate the fluid or air pressure required to physically lift the needle. Because these parts lack standard industrial markings and appear handmade, they were probably fabricated by a machinist for a highly specific testing apparatus rather than sold for general commercial use. I found this weird amber glass jar at a local Goodwill, and it looks straight out of the 1960s or 1970s. It has a thick base, and the top appears perfectly designed to hold something specific. Does anyone know what it is? This object is known as a tumble-up, which is a classic bedside water carafe set. Popularized in the early 20th century, these glass sets were a staple in well-appointed guest rooms before the era of modern indoor plumbing became perfectly reliable. The design is elegantly simple. It consists of a pitcher for holding water and a matching drinking glass that rests upside down over the neck of the bottle. This nesting mechanism acts as a sanitary lid to keep dust and insects out of the water overnight. While insulated steel bottles have largely replaced them today, mid-century amber glass sets remain highly collectible. I found this solid piece of metal right in my driveway, exactly where we parked the cars. It weighs about 1 pound and appears cleanly snapped off on at least one end. I desperately want to say it did not fall off my vehicle, but I have a sneaking suspicion. Does anyone know what it is? It's a broken piece of a coil spring from a vehicle suspension system. Specifically, it belongs to a coil-over strut assembly. These heavy-duty steel springs wrap directly around the shock absorber to support the massive weight of the car and absorb dynamic impacts from the road. Over time, constant cyclic compression, combined with rust from road salt and moisture, can cause the hardened steel to fatigue, become brittle, and eventually snap under tension. When a section shears off like this, it reduces ride height and severely compromises the vehicle's handling, requiring an immediate suspension replacement. What is this extending metal piece found screwed under a desk? The length can vary, but there doesn't seem to be a way to stop it from moving or locking in place. Does anyone know what it is? It's a ball-bearing slide track, typically used for a sliding keyboard tray or a shallow desk drawer. These mechanisms consist of interlocking metal channels fitted with small steel balls. As you pull the tray, the bearings roll within the track, allowing the inner channel to extend smoothly. Because it lacks a locking lever, it relies on gravity or physical end stops to keep the tray from sliding out entirely, which is a standard mechanical design for older office furniture setups. I pulled this metal tube out of the bottom feed of a household humidifier. It has some strange electronic bits wired in series. The lower part looks like a thermal fuse, and the upper part has 2 aluminum plates with a brittle, stone-like layer sandwiched between them. Does anyone know what it is? What you found is a positive temperature coefficient, or PTC, heating element. The brittle, stone-like layer between the aluminum plates is actually a specialized ceramic material. When electrical current passes through this ceramic, it generates heat to rapidly vaporize the water in your humidifier. The brilliant part of PTC technology is that as the ceramic gets hotter, its electrical resistance naturally increases, which restricts the current and stops it from overheating. The attached thermal fuse acts as a final physical failsafe designed to intentionally blow and cut the power entirely if the self-regulating ceramic ever malfunctions. What is this small tube with a yellow label and a bright green cap? The photo quality is poor, and the bright writing on the side is hard to read. It is not a brand or color pattern I am familiar with. Does anyone know what it is? It's a premium quality oil pastel. That green section at the top is not actually a plastic cap, but the exposed drawing material itself. Oil pastels consist of pigment mixed with a non-drying oil and wax binder. Invented in 1925 by Sakura Color Products in Japan, they were created to offer a medium that combines the vibrant color of soft pastels with the sturdy, dust-free application of wax crayons. The paper wrapping simply protects the artist's hands from the oily residue while drawing. I found these small metal clips recently, and they surprisingly came packaged with a kitchen sponge holder I bought online. They look like strange tweezers with sliding rings attached to them. Does anyone know what it is? It's a bodkin, a traditional sewing tool used for pulling elastic, ribbon, or hoodie drawstrings through a fabric channel. To use it, you clamp the end of the elastic between the metal teeth, then slide the small metal ring down the shaft to lock the jaws tightly shut. Once secured, you push the blunt end of the bodkin through the fabric casing. The rigid metal body allows you to easily inch the string through the entire length of the garment without losing your grip on the material inside the tube. What is this blue and black circular object found mounted inside an electrical box? Does anyone know what it is? This object is known as a photoelectric cell, commonly referred to as a photocell or light sensor. It functions by using a light-sensitive resistor to measure the ambient light levels in its environment. When the sun goes down and darkness falls, the internal resistance drops, which triggers the connected electrical circuit to close. This mechanism is most frequently used to automatically turn on outdoor security lights, street lamps, or automated commercial signs at dusk, and then turn them off at dawn to save electricity. What are these massive yellow structures being carried on a barge? This was spotted on the Hudson River off the coast of Manhattan, heading out toward the open ocean. Does anyone know what they are? These objects are known as offshore wind turbine foundations. Specifically, these are transition pieces for a large-scale renewable energy project being built off the coast of Rhode Island, known as the Revolution Wind Farm. These steel structures weigh hundreds of tons and serve as the critical connection point between the underwater monopile driven into the seafloor and the towering wind turbine mast above the water. They are painted high-visibility yellow for maritime safety and are equipped with access platforms, boat landing ladders, and heavy-duty lifting lugs so massive crane ships can hoist them into position out at sea. I found this 3-foot-long hollow steel rod with heavy black plastic on one end, lying in the road near a gas station. It is very heavy, rusty, bent, and the plastic has 6 grooves running along its length. It most likely fell out of a passing vehicle. Does anyone know what it is? It's a pressure washer wand, also commonly referred to as a lance. This extension tube connects the trigger gun to the nozzle of a pressure washing machine. The grooved plastic section acts as an insulated grip, protecting the user's hands from the extreme temperatures of hot water systems or the friction generated by high-pressure flow. Water travels down the hollow steel tube, which is built to withstand pressures often exceeding 3,000 pounds per square inch, before being expelled at high velocity through the tip. I found this black oval object standing upright on a windowsill while staying at an Airbnb. It has a wire attached to the back that seems to run toward the television. Does anyone know what it is? This object is known as an indoor digital television antenna. Modern antennas are designed to capture over-the-air broadcast signals transmitted in the UHF and VHF frequency bands. Unlike the long metal rabbit ears of the past, these newer models use a flat, multi-directional internal receiver housed in a compact plastic shell. When placed near a window, the antenna picks up electromagnetic waves from local broadcast towers and sends the signal down the coaxial cable directly to the television's internal tuner. We just bought a house and found this large spool of white plastic left behind in the barn. The roll sits on a wooden pallet and measures roughly 4 feet in diameter, while the plastic strip itself is about 4 inches wide. At first glance, it looks a bit like landscape edging, but the color makes me doubt that. Since it was in the barn, it might be leftover building material. Does anyone know what it is? What you found is a large roll of vinyl wall coving, commonly used in commercial construction as a flexible baseboard. Unlike standard wooden baseboards that require precise measuring, cutting, and nailing, vinyl coving is purchased in massive industrial rolls and glued directly to the bottom edge of a wall where it meets the floor. The curved bottom lip seals against the flooring to protect the drywall from moisture, mop water, and scuff marks. A 4-foot spool like this contains hundreds of feet of material, making it ideal for outfitting a large agricultural building or commercial facility. What is the purpose of this unusual glass decanter? It was received as a gift and features a main reservoir for liquid, but it also has an extra opening on the side. The small side opening connects to an inner glass bubble that does not pour into the bigger chamber, keeping the 2 liquid sections completely separated. Is this just weird for the sake of being weird, or is there a logic to it? Does anyone know what it is? This object is known as a chilling decanter, often used for serving white wine, sake, or spirits. The separate side chamber is specifically designed to hold crushed ice. By keeping the ice isolated inside its own glass pocket, it rapidly cools the surrounding beverage through thermal transfer without ever melting directly into the drink. This mechanical design allows you to serve a perfectly chilled beverage over several hours without watering down the flavor or diluting the alcohol content. What is this massive, odd-looking metal slide attached to the exterior hull of this ship? It looks like a giant playground slide suspended directly over the water. Does anyone know what it is? What you are looking at is a marine fender storage rack. When large commercial ships or ferries dock, they need massive rubber bumpers, known as fenders, to absorb the kinetic energy and prevent the steel hull from crashing directly into the concrete pier. These heavy, air-filled rubber fenders take up a lot of valuable deck space. To solve this, engineers weld these angled storage chutes directly onto the side of the ship. The crew can easily pull the giant rubber fenders up into the rack when out at sea and quickly deploy them over the side by letting them slide down when approaching a port. I found this strange hand tool in a toolbox I inherited from my dad. He was a car mechanic, but the box also contained various piano repair tools. It looks like a set of pliers with a unique split head, and an image search was completely wrong, suggesting it was a test tube holder. Does anyone know what it is? It's a piano wire cutting and guiding tool. Given the other specialized piano repair equipment in the box, like the hammer shank reducer, this fits perfectly into the trade of a piano technician. The split at the head of the tool contains a hardened steel blade and a specialized guiding groove. When restringing a piano, technicians must handle extremely stiff, high-tension steel music wire. This specific jaw mechanism allows the user to securely grip, guide, and precisely cut the thick wire to the correct length before winding it tightly onto the tuning pins. I found this blue plastic triangular object washed up on the beach near Brora, Scotland. It has 50MTR stamped on it, and it is the second one I have found this week. Does anyone know what it is? It's a pilot ladder step chock, a critical piece of safety hardware used in global commercial shipping. Maritime pilots use highly specialized rope ladders to board moving cargo vessels at sea. The chock functions as a mechanical wedge that secures the wooden steps of the ladder to the heavy-duty side ropes. The mechanism works by spreading the two side ropes apart, while a small peg connects directly to the wooden step, locking it firmly in place to prevent the step from twisting under a person's weight. The stamped steering wheel mark indicates the part conforms to strict international maritime safety regulations. What is this lightweight black plastic thing with an unusual shape? It has a thick, ergonomic base and a top that looks like it clamps onto something small. Does anyone know what it is? It's a miniature painting handle. Specifically designed for hobbyists who paint tabletop gaming figures, this grip allows the user to hold the miniature securely without touching the wet paint. The spring-loaded clamp at the top grips the small plastic or metal base of the figure. This allows the artist to rotate the piece freely with one hand while painting with the other, reducing hand fatigue and keeping the intricate artwork completely smudge-free. My partner handed these thin wooden slivers to me, not wanting to throw them away, but not sure what they are. They measure exactly 5 centimeters by 1.5 centimeters and are sealed in small plastic pouches. I thought they might be incense, but they have absolutely no scent. Does anyone know what they are? What you found are canvas wedges, also known as stretcher keys in the art world. When a painter works on a canvas, the fabric can stretch and sag over time due to humidity and heavy brush pressure. These small wooden wedges are designed to be hammered into the internal corners of the wooden stretcher frame behind the canvas. By forcing the joints of the frame slightly apart, the wedges physically expand the dimensions of the wood, pulling the canvas drum-tight once again. I spotted this tall device while sitting in the waiting room at my cardiologist's office. It features a transparent tube measuring about 20 centimeters in diameter and roughly 180 centimeters tall. Inside, there is a smaller tube and hundreds of little white foam balls. Does anyone know what it is? It's a sensory tube, often referred to by manufacturers as a popcorn tube. Commonly installed in medical waiting rooms or sensory integration clinics, it acts as a calming visual stimulus. A small motorized fan in the base creates a constant updraft, blowing the lightweight polystyrene balls up through the central inner column. Once they reach the top, they spill over the edge and fall outside the inner tube, cascading down slowly like a continuous snowfall. The gentle, repetitive motion helps lower anxiety for waiting patients. I found this small blue plastic piece, and I think it might be from a board game. What is this little object? What you found is a character peg from the board game The Game of Life. Created by Milton Bradley in 1860 as The Checkered Game of Life, the modern version featuring these small plastic pegs was designed by Reuben Klamer in 1960. Players insert these blue and pink pegs into small plastic cars to represent family members as they navigate the board. I found this little compound with about a dozen weird white domes arranged in rows of 3 in a field in rural New Zealand. It is surrounded by fences about 6 feet high. I have seen similar ones in other rural towns. Does anyone know what it is? This object is known as a Starlink ground station. Operated by SpaceX, these stations function as the critical link between the internet backbone on Earth and the constellation of satellites in low Earth orbit. Inside each of those weatherproof white radomes is a tracking antenna. The antennas constantly rotate and tilt to lock onto satellites passing overhead, transmitting and receiving massive amounts of data to provide broadband internet access to remote areas. What are these tiny clear bead things that fell out of my computer? I can hear a few more shaking around inside my laptop. My only guess is that they fell out of a weighted blanket I recently bought. Does anyone know what they are? What you found are silica gel beads. These are commonly packed with electronics, clothing, and other manufactured goods to control humidity. Silica gel is a highly porous form of silicon dioxide that acts as a desiccant, meaning it aggressively absorbs moisture from the surrounding air to prevent rust and mold during shipping. They likely spilled from a small packet near your computer or blanket. While not inherently toxic, they are a choking hazard and should be cleaned up immediately. I stumbled upon a horse track while out on a hike today in North Yorkshire. The track was covered in tiny, multicolored pieces of shredded plastic. It looked very evenly spread and intentional. Does anyone know what it is? It's an equestrian track material, commonly known as footing. Modern riding arenas often mix traditional sand with synthetic materials like shredded rubber, textiles, or plastics to improve the surface performance. This mixture serves 2 main purposes. First, it acts as a shock absorber to lessen the impact on the horse's joints and hooves during heavy running and jumping. Second, the synthetic fibers prevent the sand from compacting and help the track drain water efficiently, ensuring a safe riding surface in wet weather. I was working above the ceiling in a converted bank vault and found this heavy metal object. It is a couple of inches across, and the exterior housing feels exactly like an industrial, explosion-proof electrical box. The face features a solid metal mesh, and looking through the tiny holes, I can only see a flat black material. Does anyone know what it is? It is a heavy-duty cover for a public address speaker. In highly secure areas like bank vaults or industrial facilities, standard plastic speaker grills are too fragile and could be easily tampered with. This thick metal housing protects the internal audio cone from physical damage, while still allowing sound waves to project clearly through the metal mesh. The flat black material you see inside is the protective dust cap covering the center of the speaker driver. These were primarily used to broadcast security announcements or emergency alarms directly into secured zones. I found this round hole in my wall with a plastic cap. The cap doesn't seal the hole, and it doesn't go straight through to the bathroom behind it. The TV aerial and Wi-Fi sockets are on the other side of the room, so I thought it might be related to electric underfloor heating. Does anyone know what it is? It's an old cable television wall grommet. Also known as a cable bushing, this plastic insert dresses up the hole where a coaxial cable used to pass through the drywall. Before the dominance of streaming and wireless internet, technicians would drill directly through floors or walls to run lines from an exterior cable box to a television set. The grommet protects the cable jacket from being sliced by raw drywall edges and provides a clean, finished look to the installation. I was waiting for the bus outside the Edinburgh airport and noticed these red brushes attached to the shelter. Each structure had 2 or 4 of these bristle-like things facing toward the road, at about waist height. They are made of flexible plastic and do not touch the passing buses. Does anyone know what it is? What you found is a pedestrian deterrent brush. These tactile installations are designed in accordance with urban safety engineering principles to passively discourage people from standing on the blind side of the sign. Because the gap between the shelter and the curb is exceptionally narrow, pedestrians standing there are at risk of being struck by bus side mirrors. The bristly texture acts as a physical and visual barrier, preventing individuals from lingering in the danger zone or suddenly stepping out into the path of a multi-ton vehicle. I found this lightweight extendable metal rod with a white base in a culinary classroom. It measures about 1.5 feet retracted but extends up to 7 feet long. Does anyone know what it is? It's a central support rod for a column balloon stand. These structures consist of a round, water-fillable plastic base that anchors the telescopic rod. To use it, you inflate balloons, slot their tied ends onto plastic rings, and slide those rings down the pole to stack them. Event planners and decorators use them to quickly assemble towering 7-foot-tall balloon pillars without needing expensive helium or complex wire framing. I spotted this small, unmarked black box plugged into an outlet in the bathroom at my workplace. It looks out of place and has no obvious buttons or screens. Does anyone know what it is? What you found is a Wi-Fi extender. Specifically, it is a compact wireless repeater designed to eliminate internet dead zones in commercial buildings. It works by receiving the existing 2.4 or 5 gigahertz radio signal from the main router, amplifying it, and broadcasting a fresh signal deeper into the facility. Since bathrooms often have thick, tile-covered walls and dense plumbing that block radio waves, IT departments frequently install these discrete modules to maintain uninterrupted connectivity. What is this small wooden box measuring 4 by 0.5 inches? Inside, there are 2 thin sticks with white tips that can slide in and out or be completely removed from the wooden casing. Does anyone know what it is? What you found is an old-school set of retractable travel chopsticks. Before modern screw-together or folding camping utensils became standard, these compact sets were manufactured for personal, on-the-go dining. The wooden base acts as the handle, while the white tips, often made of bone, ivory, or plastic, slide out to extend the utensil to a standard eating length. By using a tight friction fit, they remain secure while picking up food. Then, pack away cleanly into the pocket-sized box after the meal. I found this custom-made wooden block while visiting a gym in a different town, and nobody there could tell me what it was for. It has a handle sticking out, and the word "top" is written on one end. I found it near the cable stacks, alongside another one that is slightly thinner. Does anyone know what it is? This object is known as a board press block. It is a specialized piece of powerlifting equipment used during the bench press. A spotter holds the handle to place the wooden block directly onto the lifter's chest. When the athlete lowers the heavy barbell, it strikes the block instead of their chest, artificially reducing the range of motion. This mechanical stop allows the lifter to handle heavier weights and specifically target the triceps and the lockout phase of the bench press without putting maximum strain on the shoulder joints. Which of these items surprised you the most? Let us know in the comments. For more unknown items, check out the other videos on our channel. Hit like and subscribe.